Madam President, first let me commend my colleague from North Carolina. Kay Hagan has been an extraordinary asset in the United States Senate. She has shown political bravery to the highest degree over and over again, taking what she knew were the right votes, even when they were politically tough votes. And I just listened to her farewell address, and I couldn't agree with her more that she put the people of North Carolina ahead of everything else in terms of her service in the United States Senate. It's been an honor to serve with her, to get to know her husband Chip and her family, and I wish her the very best, whatever her future undertakings may be. At a separate part in the record, I would like to say that on Tuesday, I was pleased to chair a hearing in the Judiciary Subcommittee on Constitution, Civil Rights, and Human Rights. It took a look at the state of civil rights in America today. We heard compelling testimony from our colleagues, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, Congressman Luis Gutierrez of Illinois, and Congressman Keith Ellison of Minnesota. Civil rights leaders like Wade Henderson and Laura Murphy, and Dr. Cedric Alexander, who's chair of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. It was a powerful hearing. We talked about Michael Brown of Ferguson, Missouri, Eric Garner of Staten Island, and the growing sentiment across our nation that the criminal justice system needs to be improved. In particular, we talked about challenges that our nation faces when it comes to restoring the trust of the minority communities in our government. Every witness, every senator at the hearing agreed we need to do more, not just wring our hands, but to hold hands together and find solutions. One issue that we discussed at the hearing was the need for law enforcement to be more transparent. And we discussed important legislation called the Death in Custody Reporting Act that would mark a significant step forward when it comes to transparency. The Death in Custody Reporting Act would take the simple step of requiring states and federal law enforcement agencies to report to the Department of Justice basic statistical information regarding deaths that occur in law enforcement custody. This would include information about the name of the deceased, when the death occurred, how it occurred, and which agency was involved. It would apply when a person is being arrested or detained by local, state, or federal law enforcement, and when a person is incarcerated. The bill also directs the Attorney General to study this information and provide recommendations on how these deaths can be reduced. It seems like such a simple matter to require accurate information to be collected. And in fact, Congress used to require that information, but it expired in 2006. As a result, we've not had accurate national statistics regarding death in incarceration and custody. Last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that it surveyed police departments about deaths that occurred in police custody between 2007 and 2012 and found that more than 550 deaths occurred during that time and were not included in national statistics. As we engage in national conversation about reforming police tactics, we need accurate data in order to make the right reforms. At our hearing, our witnesses from the civil rights and law enforcement community agreed it was time to start gathering this information. I'm pleased that last night, at the end of the session, the Senate passed the Death in Custody Reporting Act by unanimous consent. It's an important step forward toward transparency, accountability, and restoring confidence. Let me give credit where it's due. For years, this legislation has been championed by my friend, Congressman Bobby Scott of Virginia. I commend him for his dedicated efforts. And I also want to commend my colleague, Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, who has strongly advocated for this bill in the Senate, including at our hearing on Tuesday. Let me also give thanks to Patrick Leahy, Chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and House Judiciary Ranking Member John Conyers for their support of this legislation. This is not a partisan bill. Passed the House last year by a voice vote. Now it's cleared the Senate and on its way to the President. The passage of this legislation shows that we can work together across the aisle and make progress. Make no mistake, we've got a lot of work to do to improve the state of civil rights in America. There are many more steps we must take to restore the confidence of all Americans in our criminal justice system. The passage of this legislation by Congress is an important step in the right direction.